Welcome, everyone. Today we are having a webinar on brand and marketing fundamentals with Erika Tebbins from Taste the Local Difference. I'm Jessica Gribbin-Joyce, the program manager for the Local Catch Network, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar along with my colleague, Jess Hathaway.
Here to do that. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Jess Hathaway. I'm the Communications and Outreach Manager for Local Catch Network. And today, for our first Seafood Academy webinar, we are offering translated captions for some of our participants who indicated they'd like Spanish captions as part of the registration process. So helping us out today, I'm happy to introduce Nico Gomez Andujar, who's a harvester, researcher, and co-founder of the Culebra Fishing Association in Puerto Rico. And he's also a newly minted Local Catch Network Executive Committee member. So Nico is going to join us to explain how to turn those captions on. Welcome, Nico.
Thank you, Jessica. Le damos la bienvenida a todos y a todas en español. Muchas gracias por estar aquí y sacar de su tiempo en el día de hoy. Me llamo Nicolás Gómez, soy pescador de pequeña escala de Puerto Rico, donde codirijo la Asociación de Pescadores de Culebra. Y también soy nuevo dentro del comité ejecutivo del Local Catch Network. Y nada, quiero darles la bienvenida a todos los que hablan español y traducir la presentación, la bienvenida de Jessica para el seminario de hoy y darles un poquito de instrucciones sobre cómo va a funcionar los servicios de traducción por Zoom durante este taller. Eh, vamos para acá. Estamos probando con el uso de subtítulos traducidos eh, que estarán disponibles para los que los puedan activar. Vemos aquí en la pantalla los captions y translation zoom settings. Básicamente hay un icono de 3 puntos en la barra de herramientas, en la parte inferior de la plataforma, y una vez hagas clic en ese icono, puedes hacer clic también en donde dice subtítulos, ¿no? CC, y ahí tenemos la opción en español. Tenemos una flechita donde vamos a activar ese servicio, o puedes seleccionar otro idioma también. Y por último, si utiliza el dispositivo móvil, ¿no? Un celular, abra primero la configuración y sigue las instrucciones que están en la pantalla, que son bien similares a las que tenemos en computadora. Así que muchas gracias. And with that, thank you for your patience and time. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Take it away, Jessica. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. Appreciate it. For those of you who are not familiar with the Local Catch Network, we've been around for 15 years, and as it is our anniversary, we have a lot in store for this year. And our network is made up of seafood harvesters, technical assistance providers, and researchers from across North America who are committed to strengthening local and regional seafood systems through community-supported fisheries and direct seafood marketing. The network is supported by an executive committee made up of fishermen, service providers, and tribal representatives, and has institutional support from the University of Maine. Next slide. As I mentioned, today we're launching LCN Seafood Academy, which is a new series of webinars, events, and workshops built for community-based seafood businesses. And they'll be held 4 times a year and are open to the public, so you don't need to be a member to join us. Yeah, so it's my pleasure to introduce Erika Tebbins, is Director of Impact at Taste the Local Difference. And today she is talking to us about brand and marketing fundamentals. So Erika, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk all about brand and marketing fundamentals. But before we dive in, I want to share just a little bit about where I work. So at Taste the Local Difference, we know local food, and we have been doing this for 22 years, really focusing on working with the people who are harvesting, producing growing and selling local food. So we are a marketing agency that works with folks across the food value chain. So that is everything from producers, craft beverage, agritourism, and even the organizations like Local Catch Network that also work with these folks as well. And we really like to work with these types of individuals and these organizations because we believe that when we uplift food businesses across the value chain and organizations across the value chain in order to thrive, in order to have loyal customers and tell their stories and have successful, well-connected businesses. When that happens and the food system thrives, the community thrives, and that just has a really positive ripple effect. So, like I said, we've been doing this for 22 years now, and local food is our passion. And to us, local means local to wherever you are living and working with your own food business. I myself am the director of impact here. I've now been at TLD for 2 years, but I have over 20 years experience running different businesses of all kinds and sizes. So I've been an entrepreneur many times over myself. And this is a picture of me at the Local Catch Network Summit last fall. I had the immense privilege of attending and presenting there as well. And I will just say you all have the best conference food out there. And I also feel like, I know I'm biased, but I feel like I have the best job on the team because I get to interface with all of our partners to help set up impact partnership projects. So that is folks like Local Catch Network. It is working with various organizations, and I know there are a lot of different organizations represented here as well. So if that's you, I have my contact info at the end. I would love for you to reach out to me so we can connect because I work with these various organizations to put together impact partnerships that help to support the folks that you are already working with in your local food scene. But I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs myself on their own, on their like sales, marketing, and growth strategies as well. So I could talk business strategy all day long till I'm blue in the face. I love it. I'm a former farmer and beekeeper myself, also a food access advocate and a local food enthusiast. So my role perfectly intersects with all of my passions and my experience. Today, what I'm going to be sharing with you are a few core things when it comes to your brand and marketing. And those are things like how your brand and brand story are going to attract ideal customers, low and no cost tools you can use for visual marketing assets, plus some tips for working with a brand designer, essential marketing assets to have and best practices for incorporating your brand into them, using your brand and brand message as a starting point for where and how you'll market so you can get better results. And then as a bonus, we're going to work through at the end some of your ideal customer profiles and content themes so that you can get a jump start on effective marketing. And I have two extra resources for you that you'll be able to download so you can use these again and again to support your marketing. And I will say, so that survey was really, really, really helpful in terms of where folks are selling right now. A lot of this is definitely going to be geared more towards, if you're selling direct to consumer or in a manner where you are like directly having to engage with a buyer that is like able to be a little bit choosy, right? So it may not apply to a single situation. However, it is really good to know because it is also important to think about diversification of sales channels. So even if right now you are selling in a way where maybe this isn't exactly, what something you're going to be implementing tomorrow, it's great to have the knowledge so that if you start to move into a more direct to consumer route or wholesaling in like restaurants or certain retailers, this is going to be really applicable. The first thing that I want you to know about your brand is that it is your marketing starting point. So, your brand and your message, which we're going to do a real deep dive into, this is where everything begins for your business when it comes to marketing. So you obviously have the part of your business that is your product, right? You wouldn't have your business without your product or products. But when it comes to selling them, we have to start with the brand and the brand message. It's how people are going to identify your business, and it's what encourages values aligned community to find you so they can support you. So, what is a brand? I know typically when we think of a brand, the first thing that comes to mind is a logo, right? We think of like the Nike swoosh or, other really common things like the McDonald's golden arches. Those are very iconic logos. But I can guarantee you each of those companies, for as famous and iconic as they have way more to their brand than just that logo. Your logo is all of the ways that you exist from a marketing standpoint in the world as your business. And that includes things like, of course, your business name and your logo, but also your tagline, your brand colors, also things like your font would be in there too, your brand voice and your values. And we are going to go through these. This is, as you can see here, this is the Rhode Island seafood brand. And one thing I'm going to point out to you is you will notice as we go through this that you can clearly see what the Taste the Local Difference brand is, because this entire slide deck is on brand for our brand. And this is the mobile version of our homepage right here. And all throughout this, you will be able to see, oh, this is very cohesive. Everything aligns, right? It all feels like it works together. And nothing feels out of place, except you will see on one slide in particular, some like a couple of images are going to very much look out of place, and I'll point them out. And that contrast will help you to know this distinction even better. So why it matters, right? Who cares when we have as entrepreneurs a million hats that we're wearing, a never-ending to-do list? Why would it matter, right? Because you can grab attention. It can communicate a lot with only imagery and short phrases. And when built with an intention, it's going to attract your most ideal customers. Selling will then become easier, and you will develop raving fans that spread the word, and it will make you recognizable and memorable. So I know part of this presentation, in the like tagline of the presentation is about building trust, right? So you can make sales. So one important thing that I want to point out before we go any further is that the last thing that people need to do before they are going to give you money for your product is they have to trust you. They have to trust that it will be worth it. And also, when it comes to any kind of marketing, people always want to know what is the best marketing. The best and strongest marketing out there is word of mouth. And I think it always will be because of just how people are and how we relate to each other. And why word of mouth works is that you are borrowing trust. So when somebody that you trust says, "Hey, I really like this product. You should check it out. You should try it. You should purchase it," because you trust them already, they are recommending it to you. And so that is why it's really important to be thinking about, what are the ways that you can be attracting those ideal clients, giving them a great experience, and then they are going to spread the word on your behalf. So later in this presentation, as promised, we will do a bit of a deeper dive into your ideal customers, but I want to plant the seed right now for you a little bit. So, thinking about your ideal customers, you want to keep in mind that the point is not to try to be selling to everyone and appealing to everyone and trying to make everyone happy. You want to attract the best for you, right? Not trying to be everything to everyone. Ideal customers, so not just customers, but ideal customers are the ones who get it. They get what you're trying to do, they get what you're all about. They're totally okay with your price point, even if it might be a splurge. They do not need convincing. They're just really happy that they found you. And if your business focuses on a few different offers that have different types of audiences, so let's say maybe you have like a direct to consumer and you have a larger wholesale, that's okay. Just think about how you want to speak and market to each one because they're going to have different um, needs and goals and things like that. Some of them might also overlap, but you might just have some nuanced things in there too. Next, you want to think about creating your voice. So how do you want people to see your business? Are you going to be serious and educational? Are you going to be fun and silly and lively? What personality do you want your business or your brand to have? There's really no wrong answer here. I just want to say that at the top. It's just good to have this in mind as you're going through. And for some of you, you might already have this, right? So you might already have a really great like brand and like visual brand. You might have a brand kit, all of that might be all set and be good to go. But I just want to point out for those of you who maybe don't, maybe you haven't done this yet, or maybe you're thinking at some point about doing a rebrand as well. So, how are you going to be talking about your business? Will it be in the third person or the first person? Will you use an active or a passive voice? And how will the language on your website differ from social media, if at all? And then consider your audience. So while creating your brand voice, keep your audience in mind and think about the voice that they are going to best respond to. The one thing that I always mention here with this is that ultimately it is your business. And so, because it is your business and you will be creating content for it, or maybe at some point handing that off to somebody else, but it will still be your business, it is important that it aligns with you first, right? We don't want to force anything and we don't want anything to be like inauthentic, right? But it is also good to think about, we don't want anything to be wildly off from who you're trying to sell to and who your ideal client is. Also, Jess is telling me there's maybe a little bit of a lag with my camera on. So I'm going to turn my camera off going forward just in case. Additionally, with creating your voice, you want it to resonate with that target audience. And as I just said, but you want it to feel right for you too. But what does that actually mean in terms of like voice and tone? This is where you can get, creative and have fun and think about it in a way of, it doesn't have to be really stuffy. It doesn't have to be what we might think of as like overly professional. But that's also okay if that is what is right for your brand, if that is what you are going for. So I have a few examples here. The first is very casual, it's very laid back. And it is, our wild caught salmon is bonkers. You're going to love it. Trust us. So even in there, that, there's some words that are like the word gonna is not even technically a real word. That's okay. If this is how your brand is going to sound, just make sure that it is cohesive everywhere, right? Come on down to the dock to get a taste of our delicious halibut. So that is it's a little bit more elevated, right? But this last one, don't settle for anything but the best. Our mahi mahi filet is prized by local chefs, right? So that is sort of like the most elevated sounding of all of them. Here at Taste the Local Difference, we really like to, like our brand voice, we always try to be very approachable, very friendly. Uh, we always do like to share that, yes, like we are experts and share our expertise, but we never want to be off-putting. So when we are thinking about any content that we're putting out there, what that means is we are filtering it through our brand voice and tone. So if we're using anything that is like one of our core values in our brand voice and tone is no jargon, right? Because marketing jargon can make like a brand feel very pretentious and very off-putting, and we don't want that. So if we use a common marketing term or acronym, we will always define it for people. Next, you want to think about crafting your brand's visual identity. And, again, going back to the logo portion of this, this is where we most commonly think about, with branding, this is typically what people have in mind. And I will say across the board, like when I was at the summit last fall, I do feel like the fishing industry is like a kind of a level above, like even though a lot of farms and agriculture businesses have some great branding as well, it's not that they don't have great branding. I just have really noticed, I feel like the fishing industry, you all really, this is something that you prioritize. It was something that I noticed across the board. So, kudos to you. That was one thing that really, really stood out to me is I was like, wow, people really, they like, you have logos, you have, like stickers, you have packaging. Um, by and large, I would say at like a much higher rate than other sectors of this like small scale food value chain, which is really, really, really fantastic. But this is one thing that I think that I really, really, really want to emphasize that is so important to point out is that when you have these visuals, whether you're creating them or you're having them created for you, you want to be sure that you have them cohesive and consistent across all of your platforms. So as you can see here, this is Massey Fish Company is a company in Michigan. So I will say, so I live in Southeast Michigan. And that's where Taste the Local Difference was founded, but we work with folks coast to coast and internationally. And a lot of our team lives in Michigan, but our marketing director lives in the Pacific Northwest. And so this is their website here. And then these are two different social media accounts of theirs. So this is their Instagram and this is their Facebook. Now, here you can see this is just a different colorway, is like what it's called, of their logo, and that's totally fine. But it's very consistent. No matter where you are finding them, you're going to see that logo. And then on their packaging, you're seeing the logo, you're seeing the branding. You can tell even at quick glance, you're like, that's Massey Fish Company, right? And then I also want to point out with photos. So these right here might not actually be like professional photography, like as if they hired a professional photographer. They might be, but even now, there's a lot of ways with smartphones to take pretty good photos of product. So just make sure that you have high quality photos of your products and utilize those photos. Another thing I will give you all a lot of credit for, as I was looking around at different sites putting this together, a lot of you really do have great photos and even like videography at the tops of your websites, which is amazing and fantastic. But good photos make a huge difference. So it's definitely something worth investing in. This is something because I know this is recorded. I don't want to necessarily spend a ton of time here because you can go back and look at this later if you're at a point when you are working with a brand designer. But I did want to include this and just touch on it really quick because this will help you a lot to get the most out of your investment if you're working with a brand designer, either for your first brand or a rebrand. When working with a brand designer, one thing that you can do ahead of time, and the exercises we're going to do at the end will help with this, is to get together some ideas about your brand and brand inspiration first and have that ready to go. And this can both be things that feel very on brand for you and things you like, and also things that would be completely not values aligned or brand aligned for you at all. And then when you're working together, think about very specific and concrete feedback you can give versus something that is more like neutral, like, I just want something different, or I just want it to feel like us. That isn't really specific enough to help that brand designer. So again, like I said, I don't want to like linger too long here. This is great for you to come back to as a good resource. But yeah, this can really help you maximize your investment when working with them. Okay, but here is where I have low cost and even free resources, which, who doesn't love a budget resource that is high quality? I know I do. So remember how I said that you would see something and be able to tell it wasn't on brand? Could you see right away that, like, when it got to this slide, did you happen to notice that these two images in the upper right are not the TLD brand? I mean, maybe that's just me because I super notice all of this stuff. But these are templates from Canva. And I want to point that out to you because Canva is an amazing resource. So I would love to know in the chat if you're willing to share who here already has has a Canva Pro account and is utilizing the brand section and like making different things with it. Totally fine if you're not. I'm just curious if anyone is, because I'm going to explain this. If you are creating a brand yourself or you work with a brand designer and you have all of those elements, so your brand kit, again, this is TLD's brand down here. These are our brand colors with all the corresponding color codes you'll see at the bottom there. We also have our brand fonts, and we have a batch of photos. Oh, good. We have some hands in the comments or in the chat. Perfect. Um, we did a photo shoot last year as well. So you'll see down here in the brand section on Canva, you can upload logos, colors, fonts, brand voice. See, it really, it's the thing. You can put your whole brand voice in there, photos from a photo shoot. You can pre-load all of it. It's very, very cool. And then that way you or somebody else on your team that you're working with or that you outsource to, it's all in there. And this makes it incredibly fast. So after you work with the designer, or again, if you're just doing this on your own, utilizing this section of Canva is really going to speed up your marketing time immensely. And I will say too, these two templates up here, so these are just Canva event schedule templates. And what I recommend is that if you need a like type of template for something, you can search in there, find ones that look like a vibe that is close enough to your brand. And then you can go in and every one of these elements, the fonts, the colors, these little like X's here are just little elements on there. You can either like delete them, or if they fit your brand vibe, you can swap out the colors. You could do all sorts of things. You can change the background color. There's a lot that you can do, but you can take their existing templates and then just make them on brand for you by utilizing this brand section. It's amazing. It's like magic. Um, but they also have, if you are not yet ready to work with a brand designer, they have a logo section where you can search for different things and then you can swap them out to like different elements of them out to customize them. They have color palette inspiration. You can also look, there's a different website called coolers.co for coordinated color palette inspo. There's all sorts of stuff. Um, Really, really, really amazing. It's easy to go down a rabbit hole. Try not to spend too much time. They're working on it. But yeah, it can be it can be fun to tinker around if you're just getting started with this, and a really great low cost option there. Little bit more about brand story before we go into the specifics of where you're going to put all of this. And of course, I had to use the Local Catch Network homepage because they have a great part. We're going to talk about the header of your website later, but they have a really great tagline here in their header. I love it. So thinking about your brand story, you want to think about your unique value proposition. This is what is going to make your business unique and set you apart from the competition, and it's going to make you valuable to your customers, and most importantly, your ideal customers. You also want to think about your mission, your vision, and your core values. So this is, knowing why you do what you do and why others would be excited to support it is going to help you craft your key messaging. And then also connecting emotionally with customers through storytelling. Now, emotionally does not mean like boohoo type story. Um, so yeah, but this is just, it's telling that story because again, we are storytellers. Humans are storytellers, right? We really resonate with those stories, especially with local food businesses or any type of small business. We feel a resonance with the story behind a small business, and that is partly why we like to support small businesses, right? So telling your story is going to make them want to support you. They will feel really connected. And as you're thinking about your unique story, you can also think about your niche. That's a common term in marketing. It just is a way to also think about, sort of like the narrowing of your focus on who you're speaking to or the aspect of the market that you serve. But there's a lot of different ways that you can find your niche. One of those things is to look at other businesses that are similar to yours but maybe they serve a different region of the country or are doing things like a little bit different. And one little thing I always point out here is that this is not for comparisonitis. This is not to make you feel bad or like you're not doing enough or anything. It's really just to get other inspiration. It's to get a fresh perspective. And then you can look at and see, what are they doing that you're not? Or maybe like, what are you doing that they're not? And what need are they filling? And how can you fill another, right? Again, it's just to spark creativity, right? Again, not to be competitive, but to spark creativity. I also want to point out, I love these little fish illustrations, and our director of communications is an illustrator, and she did all of these, and I think they're amazing. And lastly, you want marketing cohesion. You want all of your story, all of everything that we've already talked about, you want it to be part of your ecosystem, which we're going to go into in just a bit. But this is where you can add those photos or videos to give more context to the written words. And you got to make sure that you're adapting your story to fit the medium. So as we go into in a minute, things like social media, email, and websites, just remember you are going to have your core brand story, and then you can adapt it to make it shorter or longer, depending on the medium that you are working in. So we're going to take a little brain break here for a second because that was a lot of learning. And we are going to enjoy some visuals of actual brands. And I would love it if you could tell me in the comments, because again, if you'll remember, brands are the way that you like your whole business shows up in the world, often visually. It tells a lot with a little. So this is a brand from where I live, Great Lakes Tin Fish, and she has done a really great job. It's a woman-owned brand, kind of, jumping on the trend of, tin fish right now. And but her branding is really beautiful. Her website is really beautiful. All of her marketing is really beautiful. She's definitely, taken a lot of time to and investment to be very intentional with it. And I would just love to know what comes to mind. Like, obviously, I would imagine people on here, maybe are not super familiar with this brand per se. So, without knowing every single thing about this brand, without doing a deep dive on the website or anything like that, just purely looking at the brand, what adjectives come to mind? Feel free to drop those in the chat. When you see it, what comes up for you? And I'm gonna scroll through a few others, and then similarly, we'll do the same. If you are thinking about anything else of these other brands, let me know. So far we have modern, we have hipster slash cool, fun and refined, spa, fun, nostalgic, wholesome, very small biz. One says, yeah, pretty, could be anything. Yeah, totally. So, and here's the thing, right? I can think of off the top of my head, several different like visual brand like concepts of different tin fish brands, right? There's several right now. Some that are more popular than others, but there are many. And going back to ideal customer is ideal for you. You're not trying to speak to everyone, you're trying to speak to your ideal customer. There are definitely people that would not gravitate to this product, even if the product's great because of the brand, but would be totally into the brand of a different tin fish product, right? So just as like an example, yeah, Jessica saying would look nice in a gift basket. Yeah, totally, right? So it's really amazing. Like when you start to go down the brand rabbit hole, it's really intriguing to think about what your subconscious like is telling you about a brand, when we might in our day to day not really think about it too much, right? So Everglades oysters, this when I was looking on their site, I was like, wow, this to me feels very like this top part came from a video. It gave me like Hawaii 5-0 retro, like 70s and 80s vibes. It feels like a party. It feels like, yeah, it just feels like a party. And it feels like a retro like 70s and 80s party to me. And totally different than the one before it, right? I mean, it's different products too, but it has a different vibe as well. So Island Seafood Atlanta and Tapley Cove Oyster Company. Uh, Part of why I put these in here is because I included some of their like verbiage in here. And remember when I was talking about brand voice and how it doesn't have to be like super stuffy and professional, and you could have casual language and everything. And I feel like they both have that. Yeah. So John says, "Shuck yeah" is a great tagline. Totally. When I was scrolling through, I was like, oh, I shuck yeah. Like you're gonna remember that, right? And I want to point out, it might not be perfect for every brand. So this is where it's important to remember, like, what is authentic to you, right? This is where we don't want to just go like, that's amazing. I'm gonna copy that because it resonates with me, right? We want to think about it holistically in our brand and our own marketing within our own company, because we want it to be aligned. But I hope it's also encouraging that you can be a little bit different and fun and um, outside the box, if you will, with your brand and be really memorable. I also love how here it says skip the imports, taste the Gulf, right? That's also very memorable too. Like I feel like that can be like a good tagline right there. So I wanted to put those in. And I just like that like fun, like this is just like a fun little guy there, right? Um, and then here we have this one. And one thing I loved about this, let me move my little chat so I can see better. Um, Also at the top, harvesting and delivering you the best wild salmon in the world. It's just, very like that is a brand message right at the top, right? And then from social media, you get this glimpse of, oh, this person is happy, they're smiling, they love what they do. And again, quick glance in their marketing. It's conveying a lot with a little. Yes, you can read the caption and all of that, but even that image conveys this notion of like they have fun. They enjoy what they're doing. Even the navigation up here, the fact that they have community, I was like, oh, that really struck me as like community must be important to them. Without even clicking in or like knowing what that meant, I was like, community is probably something that's important to them. So now you've got your brand. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with it? So I used this from when Jordan was supposed to present with me in the fall and then ended up not being able to make it to the conference. But I know that she does a great job with she helped really grow the Tuna Harbor Dockside Market Instagram account. But take that all of that brand message, all of you, the core of what you do, your logo, all of that. And you want to make sure to turn that into a compelling bio. Sure, you only have a little bit of real estate here on your profiles, but make the most of it, right? So who you are, what you do, where you do it, and then you can throw in a little bit about, your value. So here we're a fisherman's market run by the fishermen for the fishermen, right? Tells you a lot in a little. And then it has this extra info, and you got the link and you got the logo. Boom, boom, boom. Easy peasy. It's great. This is also the template that they use for their email marketing. You don't necessarily need to have, like, if you don't have as much to say as this, that is a-okay. I have a simple example of what you can do. If you're doing email marketing, I do want to point out you have to actually use an email marketing platform. You cannot just use like a free Gmail or Hotmail. If you are truly marketing, people have to be able to opt out, but be sure to have a branded template. It's going to make it's going to be better for the people reading it. It's going to be more consistent. It's just better all around. And have logo, website link, social links. You can see, got them all down here. Address, if that makes sense, contact info, and CTAs. Remember how I said we don't do jargon? So CTAs, that is calls to action. So that is like, you know, shop now, register now, things like that. Just make it very clear and obvious. If you are not doing like a true email marketing, if you're not there yet, that's a-okay. Remember, I mentioned Canva earlier. You could take your brand stuff, you can make a little image in Canva, and then you can insert that in your regular email at the bottom and just put all your basic stuff. Easy peasy. This is our like internal email signature. Now, your website here is, it's your home of your business. I know a lot of people will just maybe default to like a Facebook page. The problem with that is you don't own a Facebook page and it doesn't work with search engine optimization. But the plus side is that it's a lot more affordable and easier now to set up a basic website for yourself and on various platforms that are available now. And it's good to know that as you're doing it, you want to make sure your business name is clear get your logo in the proper file format. If you work with a designer, they're going to give you all the file formats you need. You want all the fonts that are set to be consistent with your other marketing materials, and that all the brand colors are set too. Any of those, the common platforms will have those capabilities anyways. And then, as I mentioned before, I would talk about the top of the site and how like LCN had the really good tagline at the top. It is your most valuable real estate, so you want to use it wisely. And so is your whole homepage. So have something that is clear and compelling right at the top. Use your brand voice and share your unique brand story on your website. Get those good high quality images in there. Make sure text is legible and check it on desktop and mobile. And then make sure all these little tabs at the top, those are your navigation tabs. So you want to make sure that they make sense, that they're working properly, and all the info on your site is correct. And it's good to audit your site at least once, if not twice a year, because it's just a normal part of business that it needs to be updated. And the good news is that when you do all of this, like when you have all of the proper info about, who you are, what you do, where people can find you, all of that stuff, it will help with search engine optimization as well. And what is now called like AIO, artificial intelligence optimization as well. So the more that you can be intentional and think about, oh, my website is my home base, it's like the home address for my business, and set up all that core stuff and have some good blog posts with core info, that will help you too. So now we're going to do a little work on our brands together. And this is me and our CEO, Trisha, down in Florida. It was fun going through this because I got to pull out any of my like seafood related pictures. So I know in the chat, if you can scan this and want to scan this QR code, you can get this brand storytelling workbook. But I know they're also going to put the link in the chat for you if that is easier. And these will all be shared as well at the end too. But we're going to go through some prompts together. So you don't need to like actually pull this up right now. You can save it for later. We're just going to go through some of the prompts in real time. And I see the link, just put the link in the chat. Okay. So the next few slides, these questions have been pulled from that workbook. There's a few more questions in the workbook, but I promise you the workbook is not super long or cumbersome. It's a really, really, really good resource if you're ever thinking about like, how do I stand out? How do I differentiate myself? I'm about to work with a brand designer. How do I get ready for that? Or I need to think about creating content. What do I want to say? It's a really good resource, but we're just going to go through a few. So thinking about your audience, I want you to think about how are they learning about you? So your customers, how are they learning about you now? And then of the ones that you love, when you think about them, do they have anything in common? Um, and maybe even something that if you think about it long enough, you're like, huh, I hadn't thought about that before. But a lot of them do all seem to blank or enjoy blank or whatever. And I'm also curious, feel free if you are having any like realizations as we go through this or anything, put them in the chat. This is something before I joined the team at TLD, I had my own consultancy. I was working with small business owners, with entrepreneurs. I would do this with them all the time. And every time people would be like, wow, like they would write out, their best customers, the ones they would clone if they could, write out all these things they had in, everything they could think of about them, and then realize things they had in common or how they came from, where they came from to find them. And it would really inform their marketing too, like where they should spend their time marketing as well. So we're going to think about that. Conversely, you can also think about any customers that you're like, they're not my favorite and they drive me bonkers. And I would love to not have to work with them anymore. And you can think, what do they have in common, right? Because then as you're thinking about your marketing, you can think about how can I speak more towards the people that I love and want more of? And then like what do I need to stop doing to like not have as many of these other folks, right? So it does work both ways. Then also think about what inspired you to start your business. Or maybe you inherited your family business, right? Maybe you're carrying on a tradition. That's fine too. But what do you love about it, right? What problem were you trying to solve? Or what, if you have carried on a family business, what do you love about keeping it going? What lights you up about doing it? What is the feedback that those ideal people say to you that makes you feel like, yeah, this is worth it. All that hard work is totally worth it. And this I would really I would love to know. So be brave. Well, I'll be friends here. You can share. I know for me, it feels very rewarding when people feel like, oh, I really understand marketing now, or I know how to do this, or I took what you said and I implemented it and I immediately made more sales or felt more confident or, whatever the case may be. That feels really good. And then lastly, what are your values? Any key messages, feelings, or adjectives coming to mind to describe your business? Oh, and I'll just say on this one, so all of this is your unique value proposition. So the things that set you apart. And your values are going to inform your decision making. So I always think of them as your North Star because we always, as business owners, we're making decisions every day, every week, every month, right? So your values will help you with decision making. And then also, it's going to be the heart of your brand, right? So if you remember going back why I showed you those different visual brand identities, really like, and even the brand voice, all of that, like that is just the outward expression of the stuff that people can't see that lives inside you, which I realize sounds really corny when I say it out loud, but it is really true, right? All of that is just getting it out so other people can experience it. Um, and that is why it's okay for it to be different and not to resonate with everyone. And that's why it's important for it to be authentic to you, because there is ultimately only one you, right? Behind your business. You're not like a mega corporation. You're a small business, and that is special and should be celebrated. Okay, so I want to know, we only have a last little bit left, and I definitely, I want to know. I think it's good when we share, so please share out. Last two little bits, this is where it's gonna put it all together. So, thinking back to that ideal customer profile, now that you've thought of those people specifically, you've thought of the nuanced things of the most ideal people, you've thought about how they're coming to you, how they're actually finding you, what they're actually like, what they're interested in, all of those things. think about some of the ways you could make them aware of your products, right? So where are they also shopping or getting their information or traveling to, or what do they care about, or what do their kids do, or all of those things, right? Really thinking about them is going to help you to be savvier about where and how you actually market. And then thinking about values aligned slash customer aligned businesses you can collaborate with to get more brand awareness. So when you are thinking about, you know, chefs or other like wholesale opportunities or like markets to sell at or other like businesses that you might want to do like a pop-up event with or anything, you can then think about like, is this person I'm going to collaborate with? Is this business I'm going to collaborate with? Is this also where my ideal customer is? Or is this not quite a right fit for my brand, right? It might not be obvious right away, and that's fine. You can always like try stuff out and see if it feels like a good fit or not. But it's going to help you with decision making a lot. And then what can you start to share more of right now so your ideal customers get excited to learn more and purchase like sooner than later, right? So as you're thinking about creating content, which I know a lot of people really struggle with, rather than thinking about, I got to make something that goes viral or gets me tons of sales or whatever, whatever, imagine that most ideal client, the customer that you would clone if you could, imagine you're creating content exactly for that person. And then lastly, we are going to put it all together for your content pillars. And these are the top 3 to 5 topics that live at the intersection of your values, your unique value proposition, and your ideal customer profile. So again, so you're like, what is core of importance to you? What sets you apart? And who is that ideal person that you want shopping with you? And you want to think of them through the filter of your brand voice too, right? So again, are you talking and is it that shuck yeah kind of brand voice? Is it a more like serious and elevated brand voice? Is it somewhere in the middle? Doesn't matter. This is up to you. And as you are creating content, be sure to do a mix of content types so that it's not all just here's a picture of the special of the day or the week, come and buy it, right? You want a mix, you want a medley so it's interesting and people want to pay attention. And this can be for more than just social media too when we're talking content. Because remember, I talked about email marketing and I also talked about website, and it's just a matter of short form versus long form, and even medium form, depending on where it lives. So you want engaging, you want informative or educational, promotional is a-okay as well. You absolutely want to tell people what you're selling so they know that you have it. Behind the scenes is really great. People are fascinated by small businesses, especially small businesses in food, because this is not people's life. So they are fascinated by it. Um, Customer reviews, that might feel a little awkward, but shout it out. Shout out all the good stuff people say about you. And be sure to have fun too. And then going back, one last thing with that SEO and the AIO, this for the search engines, creating some long form content that is unique to your business. So thinking about blog posts that live on your website that really highlights what is unique to you, that really highlights this top stuff right here. Having that on your site is going to help you show up in search better as well. And I have one more freebie, and then we will get into discussion. So because I know how busy you all are, we have one more download. So as you are brainstorming that content with your brand and your customer in mind, once you get those ideas and you're creating that content, this is going to be one final step that will help you brainstorm 10 different posts that you can pre-make and schedule so they can go up and go out and be doing some marketing for you while you are doing other things. And I will skim ahead to this. This is my contact info, and this is our site that has, if you go to localfoodmarketing.com, there's also a tab that says resources, and we have tons more free resources. So I know I mentioned photography a few times. We have a resource there on how to do really good photos and videos with your smartphone. And we have a lot of others to check out there as well. And if you think of something after this or you're watching this later, please feel free to reach out and don't hesitate to ask me a question by email as well. So with that, I am going to stop share so we can discuss. And if folks want to put their cameras back on, I know thankfully doesn't seem to be a delay anymore on my end. So if you're in a spot where you can and you want to, feel free to turn your camera back on. And I'm happy to help you brainstorm or answer any questions about any of that.
Thanks, Erica. That was so great. I learned a lot. And yeah, feel free to turn your camera on. You can keep it off. We'd love to have questions. We'll just ask that you either raise your virtual hand using the Zoom toolbar, or if you have a question, you can pop it in the chat and we can also read that for you. And we have about 15 minutes for discussion. So feel free to ask questions, or if you want some, free tips, go for it, because I'm sure they'll be transferable. So.
Yeah. Oh, I see one in the chat. Can you provide an example of content pillars? How is this different from your values? Yes, absolutely. So I would say your content pillars are definitely related to your values, but it's going to also be, what is it that you're selling? Why do you sell it? What is your story? So let's say if you are selling sustainable fish and you are third generation or something like that, right? That all of those things together, like what you do, why you do it, who you do it for, all of those things, those are going to be your content pillars. So it's really going to be like the things that are most essential to you, the things they're sort of kind of like this is going to sound very like serious. They don't all have to be this serious, but like the hills that you will die on in your business, or like you're kind of like your hot takes and things like that. Again, they don't have to be that serious, but they're going to be the things that are like the defining factors for you and your business and why your business exists in the world for your customers.
Okay, thanks. Dan, go ahead.
Did you say Dan?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, Erica. That was a wonderful presentation. I have two questions. One of them is just maybe you can point me to the resources section on your website. I couldn't quite find it.
Yes, I will. Let me grab it for you.
And my second question, as you're doing that, is we're really thinking about like revamping our wholesale like page on our website that will like be helping to direct like chefs or distributors to like learn more about our products. And wondering if you have any like suggestions or advice of how to include that into our website and
Oh, yeah.
optimize it.
I'm so, so, so glad you're doing this. Oh my gosh. Anything that is like makes for a better sales experience on the buyer end and a more streamlined experience for the business owner, I am all for. Anything that saves you time is great. So yeah, I would have a separate navigation tab, most likely, that says wholesale. And then on there have a page that lists out either like if you have a like a branded sell sheet, or if you might not even need something that is like that thorough. You might just need a few lines of like the products you have and the pricing and things like that. And then I would say, depending on how you want to go about having them contact you, then make sure to have that information on there as well. And that could be multiple ways, like phone or a form submission or something. I would say that, and this goes across the board for any type of contact info directive for anything, is that whatever you are putting on there, make sure it's something that you are actually going to check and be responsive to. And even if that means like putting a little note on there, like we will get back to you within 48 business hours or something, just so that people on the other end know, is really great. Um, but yeah, having the info that the buyers would need, having it be easy to find, clear, thorough, and then a good way to get a hold of you is great.
Awesome. And you're saying in a separate tab. So if we're also selling retail, would be beneficial to have a completely separate tab for wholesale just to be easy to find.
Yes, I would say to do that. And you might even have, depending on how your site is set up, you might have one page that is like, where to purchase or how to purchase, that then has a few kind of core sections that says like retail, wholesale, whatever. And then from there, that could also be a place that they click in to get there. So they could potentially navigate to it from a few different places. But yes, I would make it its own page, just in case they're skimming across even if it's a drop down from the top of like how to buy, and then it's a like sub page or something.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
you're
it.
welcome. That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked that.
Thanks, Erica. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Erica. Great presentation. Yeah, really, really good. A little while ago, our team worked with the amazing Emily Miller and her team at Future of Fish to do an analysis looking at what were the factors that drive engagement on social media. And so her work, she was producing all this content, and they were collecting data to understand what makes people engage with the content. And we looked at things like how funny is the content, and is it with chefs, or is it, is it talking to fishermen, or, whatever it is. And one of my big takeaways from doing that project was that collaboration matters. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about, you mentioned collaboration, and in thinking about building brand and building story, you were very much focused on the individual business, but we work in an ecosystem with others too. Can you talk a little bit about co-branding, co-collaboration, whatever? Yeah, sort of riff off of that.
Yeah, I am a huge, huge, huge fan of collaboration. Um, and to the end, like with social media, so I think one thing that happens in marketing is a lot of times, because social media is so prevalent, and because to set up an account is free, it's like a very low lift, is social media has just become synonymous with marketing. It's like, I need to make more sales, I need to do marketing. Just tell me what I need to do on social media. However, for most small businesses, really the key is like, how can I get in front of more people? Unless you're like, I just want to do e-commerce and I just want to ship this stuff and like get it away. The key is, how do I get in front of more people locally? And one of the best ways to do that is with collaborations. And so, and I'll put a thing in the chat of a podcast I was on where we talked all about collaborations. But the reason that this works, going back to what I said like early on about borrowing trust from word of mouth, is it works the same way. So when you do a values aligned collaboration, which like that's key, is you are borrowing trust and the audience of that other person. So what social media is doing there is like on a technical level is when you add a collaborator to your post, it is allowing both individuals to share each other's audiences to get that one post to way more people, right? If you do that in person, it's basically just the analog version of that thing, right? And so it's similar to if you think about like a farmer's market or something, like a dockside market, like if there's a bunch of vendors together, the consumer only has to go to one spot to patronize multiple businesses. So if you think about hey, I know that I have this chef that we work really well together. Can we do like a specialty dinner, right? Or I know this other, maybe like a farm to table restaurant or something. Can we do a seafood forward dinner? Because what will happen is you will market to your people and they will market to their people. Maybe you also get like a wine cellar too, right? You're like, do like a try collab, they market to their people. So now three different people's audiences are learning about one event. And ideally, there's a lot of overlap in your ideal customer profile together. So then everyone comes, and now each person's audience is like, oh, I never heard of your business. Cool. And now they try your product, they like your product. And then while you're there, you can tell them, hey, here's how you can get more of my product. And so now you have more brand awareness, exposure, all of those things. So collaborations are like aligned and intentional collaborations can do wonders for your business. But yeah, the thing it was the My Digital Farmer podcast. There's an episode about collaborations. And I'll say too, like anything on our site that on the TLD site that is, for farmers or local food businesses, literally just swap out your particular niche and it all works the same.
We have a question in the chat. And Philip would like to know, he said you mentioned including pricing on the website. Would it be advisable to have both retail and wholesale pricing visible, or could that be confusing the customers?
Um, yeah, so I think it could be, so that's part of why it's great to have one, like a separate page that is just for wholesale. And I would have something at the top that's like wholesale pricing for, you know, um, like restaurants, like whatever your categories are that you sell to. And then especially if you have like minimum orders that like minimum quantities or minimum dollar amounts, any of those like particulars, I would put those in there too as a definer. Typically speaking, I would say most of the time that will help filter people out by themselves, especially if there's not like a buy now. Like if there's no way for people to actually purchase, they won't be able to purchase on the wholesale side. If you are really worried about it, though, what you could do is have it so that there's a form that is connected to like your email marketing platform that is automated. So they submit and get like a wholesale inquiry packet. So they put in their name and their email, and then it can send them an email with your like sell sheet with all the info and everything that they would need and things like that. That's like a one added layer of friction that would, you know, put a roadblock up for people. But typically speaking, I would say, I feel like a lot of people would know that there's like wholesale is for larger purchasing.
Yes, thank you, Erika. It's really great to have you. And I just want to say thanks for sharing your expertise and thanks to everyone who joined us here today. Again, this is going to be recorded and we will post this on our website. And it will also go out through all of our social links and our newsletter as well. And I want to say thank you to Nico for translation services to our members. And thank you to Jessica for hosting and Josh for helping us pull it all together. We're really excited about this new stream for Seafood Academy, and we hope to see you all again soon.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.